but I see through you.
We've all been hearing the buzz. Marvel has reportedly paused development on 3 of its upcoming shows: Strange Academy, Nova, and Terror Inc. That news hit fans hard, especially because these projects were starting to generate real interest. But here's the thing. Even though development might be paused, rumors are still swirling, particularly around Strange Academy. Some fans think it's still quietly moving forward behind the scenes, and at the center of all that speculation is none other than Dr. Voodoo. Why him? Because in the comics, Dr. Voodoo, aka Jericho Drumm, was the one leading Strange Academy. He served as its headmaster, training the next generation of powerful magic users. And with the MCU slowly reshaping its mystical side, there's a growing sense that Marvel could be setting up Dr. Voodoo as a long-term replacement for Doctor Strange. It would make sense, especially now that Stephen Strange's arc is evolving and possibly winding down. Marvel has a habit of planting seeds early, sometimes years in advance, and then circling back once the larger story calls for it. Plus, let's not forget what we saw in Avengers Doomsday. RDJ returning, but not as Iron Man, as Doctor Doom. That twist alone got people emotional, and it hinted at something much bigger brewing. In fact, the way Doom appeared there reminded some fans of the Fantastic Four first step moment, when everything suddenly clicked and the stakes felt real. Since then, people have started wondering, is Doom building a multiverse army? Because if he wants Franklin Richards, then this might just be the start. In the comics, Doom eventually sets his sights on Strange Academy 2, and that story arc could easily play out in the MCU, especially if Marvel wants to bring in characters like Dr. Voodoo to deepen its magical world. It would make sense for Marvel to develop a Disney Plus special, or even a limited series, to build up Voodoo's story before launching into a bigger confrontation with Doom. In the comics, Doom actually manages to steal Strange Academy away from Dr. Voodoo. That puts Jericho Drumm in an incredibly difficult position, where he's forced to fight for his own student safety. His role as headmaster has been about teaching and protecting these young magic users, but now that they're under Doom's influence, his entire legacy is in danger. And considering that Dr. Voodoo has both fought alongside and against Doom in the past, it wouldn't be surprising if this story plays out as a mystical showdown between 2 powerful sorcerers. To make things worse, those same students were part of Doom's rise to Sorcerer Supreme during the Blood Hunt arc in the comics. That victory led to the Academy moving from New Orleans to Latveria and being rebranded as Doom Academy. So now, Voodoo's former students are literally learning under Doom's rule. That's not just a loss of control for Drumm, it's personal. Marvel's been slowly laying the groundwork for these magical stories, even if it's been subtle. Jericho Drumm, as Dr. Voodoo, has a long history of dealing with mystical threats and dark forces. While Doctor Strange usually sticks to more traditional magic, Voodoo brings something deeper and more culturally rooted. He's Marvel's master of dark magic, drawing power from voodoo rituals, ancestral spirits, and African mysticism. And even though Doom may have become Sorcerer Supreme, the comics make it clear that Dr. Voodoo still holds unmatched status in the darker arts. Interestingly, Marvel Studios has already acknowledged they're shifting gears behind the scenes. In a Screen Rant interview from August, Brad Winderbaum, Marvel Studios head of TV, streaming, and animation, talked about their development process. He said Marvel's now developing more projects than it actually plans to make. They'll take ideas as far as a pilot script before deciding if they're worth pursuing, which means some shows may sit in limbo for a while, even if they're still alive on paper. So just because Strange Academy isn't filming yet doesn't mean it's dead. It just might be waiting for the right moment. And that brings us back to Nova. Originally, Nova had Sabir Pirzada attached as the writer. The character, whether it's Richard Rider or another version, has deep roots in Marvel lore, with cosmic powers and ties to the Nova Corps. In December, Marvel announced that Ed Bernero of Criminal Minds fame was replacing Pirzada as showrunner, which suggests they were still working on it not that long ago. But again, no clear production timeline has been shared. As for Dr. Voodoo, he's got one of the richest backstories in Marvel's mystical corner. Jericho Drumm wasn't always a sorcerer. At first, he was just a psychologist who had left Haiti to live in the U.S., But after his twin brother Daniel was killed by a dark sorcerer, Jericho returned home. There, he trained under a legendary mystic named Papa Jumbo and eventually merged with Daniel's soul, turning him into a living conduit of voodoo power. That's when he became Dr. Voodoo. Since then, he's fought all kinds of mystical threats and helped out numerous heroes, everyone from Black Panther to the Scarlet Witch. At one point, he even became the Sorcerer Supreme himself. That happened after Doctor Strange lost the title, and with the Eye of Agamotto in hand, Voodoo stepped up and held his own against villains like Dormammu. He even joined the Avengers. But his time as Sorcerer Supreme was short-lived, because he died in battle against Agamotto after destroying both the Eye and Orb to protect the world. Even so, he didn't stay gone for long. In a twist during the Axis event, Dr. Doom, trying to act like a hero, made a deal to bring Voodoo back to life. That led to some interesting dynamics between the two characters. Despite their differences, their paths kept crossing, making the idea of a showdown between them feel inevitable. And the lore around Voodoo goes even deeper. In Storm Number 2, Jericho Drumm is officially referred to as the Hungan Supreme, a title that essentially crowns him the most powerful practitioner of voodoo in the Marvel Universe. He's also called a Babalawo Extraordinaire, signaling his status as a high priest in Yoruba tradition. It's a strong signal that Marvel is starting to embrace the cultural and spiritual aspects of his magic, which could bring some much-needed depth to the MCU's mystical stories. There's even a secret invasion connection. Back in the lead-up to that storyline, Brother Voodoo was secretly replaced by a Skrull, but in a surprising twist, the Skrull agent grew so attached to the identity of Jericho Drumm that he ended up dying to save Wakanda. That arc gave more time for Black Panther and others to prepare for the coming invasion. It's little details like that, along with Jericho's deep mystical ties, that make him such a compelling candidate for the MCU's next phase. He could easily show up in Doctor Strange 3, especially if the story revolves around Strange needing help from someone who understands the darker side of magic. After all, the events of Multiverse of Madness showed Strange dabbling in some very dark arts. That version of death magic, the spirits, the zombie fight, it all felt like something pulled straight out of Voodoo's world. In fact, the MCU already quietly teased Voodoo's arrival. In the first Doctor Strange film, there was a deleted scene featuring Daniel Drumm, Jericho's brother. Jericho Drumm's moment in the spotlight feels like it's getting closer. And when it does, it could shift the MCU's magical world in bold new directions. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.